and welcome to healthyhouseplants.com, where we teach you all about gardening in the great indoors. If you'd like to support our show, please use our Amazon affiliate link below. Today I'm going to cover signs of overwatered houseplants and signs of underwatered houseplants, so you can figure out, am I overwatering? Am I underwatering? Am I doing good on my watering? So these plants are some healthy plants that are being watered as they should be. Actually, this one here is in a pH revival series because the plant was previously had pH problems, and you can see now it's looking really good. I'll put a link for that video as well as any other videos I mention in this video in the comment section below. Okay. So, signs of overwatered houseplants. Overwatering, let's define that first, means that you're watering too frequently. So not too much when you water, but too frequently. There is a difference, and I do have a video on that as well. So overwatering is watering too frequently. It's watering when your plant does not need water. And there are signs, things that you will see if you are doing this with your house plants. So soft, limp leaves that are yellow and brown, and even though the soil is wet and you think, geez, I better water some more because they're just looking so limp and they need water. Well, what happens is when you overwater, you will cause root dieback, and then the plant, yes, it is no longer sending water to the foliage because the roots have died back. And that is a sign of root rot, and I do have a root rot playlist, a link below as well. Okay, so droopy leaves. You will also see brown spotting on the leaves. Those are fungal, and those are signs of fungal infection that will come from too much water. Stems feeling mushy, especially at the base of the plant, where the crown is. If the crown is mushy, then that is definitely a sign of too much water. I have a video on that as well. No new growth. So if the plant's just sitting there and sitting there and sitting there and doing nothing and doing nothing and doing nothing, and you tend to have wet soil with that plant, that is a sign of an overwatered house plant. Wet soil, so the wet soil in the pot smelling, so it'll have kind of a rotting, yicky smell, bad egg kind of a smell. That is a sign of root rot and definitely a sign of overwatering. So fungus or mold growth on the soil. Fungus or mold growth on the soil is not always a problem, but if you're having some of these other problems like continually wet soil, the funny smell, the plant isn't growing all that well, then that is another sign of too much water. Also the presence of fungus gnats. Those are those little gnats that fly around. They look like fruit flies. Well, actually what happens is when you have a lot of excess soil that is wet in your pot, they breed larvae, and then the larvae become the fungus gnats. So a lot of wet soil will breed a lot of fungus gnats. So that's another thing to keep in mind. Those fungus gnats could be a sign of too wet soil. I do have a video on how to control the fungus gnats and stop that cycle as well. So those are the main top signs of too much water. Now let's look at signs of underwatered plants. So underwatering means that the plant is not getting watered as frequently as it would like, and the soil is staying too dry in between waterings for too long. So as mentioned, you're watering too frequently with overwatering, you're watering too infrequently, not frequently enough with underwatered plants. So this is also common if you get busy, you think, oh, I'll water it in a little while, and you don't get to it, and then the plant does have some problems, and when plants are underwatered, especially on a continual basis, that will damage them. And here are some signs of underwatering. Drooping leaves that perk back up after you water, and the soil is dry, so when you water, then the plants become more buoyant. Browning or curling leaves. So that is another sign of not enough water, not enough frequent watering. Leaves that feel really thin and crispy, that can be another sign of underwatered houseplants. On succulents, the leaves are going to look really wrinkly, so kind of shriveled and wrinkly looking. Slow growth on the smaller, newer leaves, and the smaller, newer leaves not becoming fully formed as they should be, that's another sign of underwatering. The plant just isn't getting enough water to grow properly for you. Of course, roots that are dried out and they look kind of like they're shrivelly, that's another sign of an underwatered plant. Hard, dry soil. So if the soil is dry and hard on top, really good indicator of a plant that is not getting enough water. And also you're going to see gaps in the soil. You can see fissures in the soil. That indicates that there's been just too long of a time period between watering for that plant. When that happens, also what will happen too is those fissures create a waterway where when you water the plant, the water just swoops right through the plant, does not really saturate the soil, then it does not provide the roots with sufficient moisture, and there you go, you have a problem of an underwatered plant. In that case, one thing you can do is squeeze the plant pot. If it's a plastic pot, you can do that. That will break up those fissures. I have a video on doing that as well, and that will help the plant start to absorb more water into the soil and then into the roots. Now, if it is in a ceramic pot like this plant is here, then you're going to have to repot. So you want to repot, and then you will no longer have any fissures. You can try to move the soil around a little bit, add some soil in there, but be careful not to damage roots. That may help that problem as well. So as you can see, there are quite a few signs for either under or overwatering to help you figure out, am I overwatering or am I underwatering? Either way, the soil is affected and the roots are affected by whether the soil has not enough water or too much water. And as I always talk about, the roots, even though they aren't the pretty part, even though they aren't the reason we grow plants, the roots are the most important part of a plant. So you need to keep those roots happy with the right ratio of water in the right frequency, and then you're going to have really healthy, happy plants like these guys here. Thank you for stopping by today. Please leave any comments about any indoor gardening tutorials you'd like to see. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video. And please check the bell if you'd like to be notified when new videos are released.